Today we are walking through a Nashville drum recording overdub session from start to finish, every step of the process.
Only takes a moment for the world to change, and love might take you far away. Who's to say it's over when you wait?
My name is Tim Buell. I'm a drummer living here in Nashville, Tennessee. And recently I was hired by a producer by the name of Nathan Larsen to record drums on a song. And he actually made a video about that song on his YouTube channel that you can check out in the description below. So let's walk through the process start to finish, and be sure to stay till the end of the video because I'm gonna play the song so you can see what all this work kind of ends up sounding like in the end. So step number one in the recording process when I'm tracking drums here at my home studio is setup. The producer or artist will reach out to me, they'll send me their song, and we'll talk through song ideas as well as references of maybe other songs that have the right drum sounds or energy, or any references they have that'll help us record the song. And then once I've talked to the client about kind of what they need for the song, what their vision is for the song, I'll go ahead and set everything up over in Pro Tools. So the first thing I do is open up Pro Tools and start a new session. I have a template labeled drum overdubs, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna name it, I always name it by the date, session walkthrough YouTube, because that's what this is. This is my template for session overdubs. So the next thing that I do is I go up here and I'm going to import audio, import these into the session, and I'm gonna convert them to the sample rate that I do. And then what I'm gonna do, the first thing that I do is I go through the whole song and I just listen to what sections are what, and I drop markers. So we kind of have a verse up top.
All of these years I've been all alone.
All right, so that's the song. The next step, specifically for this song, was recording the crunch kit.
Here we are when I thought it was over now, and we came far back from where this all started now.
This song in particular, I was hearing a full main kit, which we'll get to later, but also a stripped down kind of mono crunchy drum kit that needed a different snare drum and needed kind of a different vibe. So I took the toms off the drums, put up a different snare drum, and recorded the crunch kit. This is what I ended up on that first pre-chorus.
So I chose to quit. Here we are when I thought it was over now, and we came far back from where this all started now.
So that's pretty small, it's pretty shrunk down, and it has the driving four on the floor, but it kind of stays away from the offbeat disco thing because it's me playing and it's like a lo-fi kit. And then I have a little reverse and a spacey kick drum that come in at the very beginning of that. That's nice. That just kind of gives the downbeat of the section a little bit of something. And here's the crunch kit by itself. The next step in the process was doing the programming. I don't do this on every song that I track here at home, but on this song in particular, especially in the first chorus, I was thinking that I didn't want to play full drum kit or do full-on percussion that I tracked. I wanted to kind of program something that sounded a little ethereal and underwater and atmospheric, so I sat down and programmed some stuff for the first chorus and also to layer in with the crunch kit because I wanted to add a little bit of electronic vibe to the crunch kit. So here's the first chorus.
Ooh, hold on, love don't come that easy. Hold on, love is worth the waiting, baby. Oh, only takes a moment for the world to change, and love might take you far away.
So this chorus, I'll get all these like drum elements in here. Basically what it is it's just kind of like some underwater sounding stuff with a little reverse that leads into it. So here's the drum stuff by itself for that first part of the first chorus. So that kind of just gets us through the first chorus, and it's all just kind of undercurrent stuff. The hook comes in and the crunch kit returns, but with it, I've layered a few new samples that add a bit of more, like the crunch kit is very lo-fi. So to add excitement and to make it a little fresher and newer and more energy, I added these samples down here. So here's the samples that I added. and in context with everything else.
Who's to say it's over when you wait?
The fourth step in the process was recording the main drum kit.
Hold on, love don't come that easy. Hold on, love is worth the waiting, baby.
And usually my workflow for getting a main drum pass is I'll do 1 to 2 full takes of the song just to try out different things, play it back, hear what's working, hear what's not, make some adjustments. After those 1 or 2 takes, I will usually have solidified the grooves and the fills and where everything's gonna go, and then I'll go ahead and start doing takes of the song with those solidified parts and fills in mind. And once I've recorded the main kit pass, I'll go ahead and comp together 2 full passes of the song. And those 2 takes that I have are totally from start to finish takes that whoever I'm sending them to could use, but I provide 2 or sometimes 3 takes so that the producer or artist has different options for fills, slightly different variations of grooves or approaches in certain sections so that they can piece together the exact kind of drum take that they want from the 2 options or 3 options I give them. In the second verse, the full drums kick in, so let's hear a little bit of that.
I thought the years were a waste of time, counting the days, saying I was fine. I thought my days would be spent alone. No way in the world I would find the one. But here we are when I thought it was over now, and we can far back from where this all started now. And oh.
So pretty standard drums. It sounds very similar to what Nathan sent for the kind of like work tape demo. For this pre-chorus, what I wanted to do was break things up a little bit. So I kind of went to this kind of ska. But to give it a little bit of something, I programmed these 2 elements down here just to enforce the, because now everything you're hearing is pretty much just the acoustic drum kit. But I wanted to add just a little bit of something. So I added this kind of tang ride and some bells every other backbeat just to like beef stuff up. So in context,
Here we are when I thought it was over now, and we can far back from where this all started now. And oh.
they just kind of tie that section together and really make it driving, but they're really subtle. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily hear those when you listen through, but if I take them away, you're kind of like, oh. And then we get to the chorus, and that's just full kit and a little bit of shaker down here. So and for this hook here, it goes to halftime. It's nice. It's, it's still full kit. So I just switch to a tambo so that, when I start washing the ride cymbal, you still get some very defined subdivisions. And then every other backbeat, I add this huge clap in here. Because it just kind of ties everything together. So here we go. And the last step, step 5, is exporting and sending the files to whoever is going to need them. So now that all the parts are tracked, everything is in Pro Tools and lined up and sounding great, I'll usually go ahead and bounce out a rough mix just so that the producer, the artist, whoever can hear the song as I have it. And then once they approve that, I'll go ahead and bounce out all the stems for everything. When I send stems to people, which stems are just each mic individual, usually I do not print the effects that I put on my kit. So things like compression, I don't print on my drums, and things like big EQ moves, I don't print on my drums. There are small, tiny EQ moves that I might do, and a lot of times those small moves are no more than 3 dB at a maximum 6 dB. I always make sure to label things really clearly when I send. You really need to make sure that you label stuff well, otherwise it's totally confusing for whoever's getting it. So for this session, I have the crunch kit, and again, since this was a little bit of a different thing, I actually did go ahead and print the effects and the EQ and compression that I used, but I made sure to send it without any sauce. So without any effects and with sauce if Nathan wants that. For the main drum kit, Again, no sauce and with sauce. And for the main kit with sauce, with my EQ and compression, I also had like a crush track, which is parallel compression on the drums, and I had verb and stuff. So I went ahead and printed those buses and put them in a folder so he has it if he wants it. But again, I also sent the drums with no, compression EQ or anything like that so that he has that. And then the programming I put all in a folder so that, they don't just get one big folder of like 70 files or whatever. And the other really important thing before you bounce out your tracks, you have to make sure that all of your tracks are starting from 0 in the project. So this is what the session looks like after I've gotten everything kind of like in the right place. And I've made sure that, okay, so the main kit doesn't come in until the second verse, but I made sure that there's an audio region at the front. So when you drop these files that I send into a session, everything lines up and starts exactly at the project start. And now that we've talked about the process start to finish, let's go ahead and listen to the song and hear how this thing ended up after all that work. And keep in mind, this is a rough mix. I'm not a mix engineer, I'm a drummer, so I've just put a rough mix on it. And Nathan's vocals and other parts actually aren't finished as well. So this is just a rough mix of how it sounds once the drums are completed, but before it gets mixed by a professional mix engineer and mastered by a mastering engineer, and will sound like a real pro mixed it.
Here we are when I thought it was over now, and we came far back from where this all started now. And hold on, love don't come that easy. Hold on, love is worth the waiting, baby. Only takes a moment for the world to change, and love might take you far away. Who's to say it's over when you wait? Love, it always seems to find a way. Who's to say it's over when you wait? Baby, love is always worth the wait. I thought the years were a waste of time, counting the days saying I was fine. I thought the days would be spent alone. No way in the world I would find the one. But here we are when I thought it was over now, and we can far back from where this all started now. And hold on, love don't come that easy. Hold on, love is worth the waiting, baby. Only takes a moment for the world to change, and love might take you far away. Who's to say it's over when you wait? Love, it always seems to find a way. Who's to say it's over when you wait? Baby, love is always worth the wait. Love is always worth the wait. Love is always worth the wait. Never thought that I'd have this love. I never thought that I'd be enough. I never knew someone who made me whole. I never thought someone would fill this hole.